All right, let's come back to Build Back Better and new COVID legislation. Sure. Joining us now, Liz Peek, columnist for The Hill and Fox News contributor, and Steve Moore, Freedomworks Vice President, Committee to Unleash Prosperity Hotline, and my brother. So, Steve Moore, I told you so. From Manchin's statements today,
You did.
I told you this morning, and all the other crazy people in America for. So he came out, but in all seriousness, he came out with 4 no's and a dead. All right, and his 4 no's and a dead. So at some point, somebody's got to believe him that he is not into negotiating this crazy $5 trillion Build Back Better bill.
Well, you're right. And you called me yesterday to calm me down when I read that Wall Street Journal piece saying that Manchin was going to cut a deal. This is very good news. And it is no, which is fantastic. By the way, does this mean the tree equity program is dead, Larry? You know, that $3 billion to plant trees? There's no state in the country, in my opinion, that's a bigger loser from this bill than West Virginia.
Right.
And West Virginia is an energy-producing state, and they want, $550 billion to put our oil and gas and coal industry out of business. I mean, Joe Manchin would be insane to vote for that. One other quick point. From the moment that Joe Manchin announced that he was a no on this bill, his approval rating in West Virginia
Yes.
went through the roof because people in West Virginia don't want this bill.
Now, Liz Peek, though, just to put the cherry on top of this story, the White House is preparing a new COVID spending bill. We don't know how much yet, but I guess it's the Omicron bill. Now, Liz, there's $800 billion unspent from the prior $6 trillion some odd dollar bills, but that's not going to stop them. They're going to put a new COVID bill soon. You think that's going to get through, too, kind of end run Manchin?
No. No, I love Rick Scott's comments about the OMB head not knowing what the numbers were, not knowing how much was unspent, not knowing what our debt situation was. The fiscal irresponsibility of this government it makes my head explode, Larry. And by the way, back to Manchin, he said no, but he hasn't even been talking to the White House. They're not even coming to him. And to Steve's point, in terms of the $500 billion they want to spend on renewable energy, Joe Manchin, one Democrat suggested maybe Joe Manchin would like to write that part of the bill because, after all, he's a person who's got veto power over it, and it is terrible for his state. So everything they're doing right now really smacks of desperation. And yes, I read the comments about the economy's weakening. We have to put more money out there. I think that's going to go absolutely nowhere. I think people are aware that more spending in this red-hot economy would only drive inflation higher, and that has to be the White House's and Congress's #1 concern.
But now, Steve Moore, the White House is saying they just got through telling us how great the Biden economy was, okay? So that was like a few days ago. Now, suddenly, Madam Psaki comes out and says, well, wait a minute. The jobs number is going to go down. It's going to be negative on Friday because of Omicron. And my thought is, okay, there might be a little bit of truth to that, the January numbers, but isn't this a self-inflicted wound with all these mandates? People did not want to get vaccinated. They had natural immunity. They walked off the job, so they're not going to get paid, particularly hourly workers. And that may be the reason the job number falls in January. And more COVID spending ain't going to help that at all.
Yeah, it's a great point, Larry. The vaccine mandate has caused, we don't know how many, but hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Americans to leave their job because they don't want to get back. By the way, I'm pro-vaccination. I think adults should get vaccinated, but I think it should be people's individual choice about what they get mandated, whether they get the vaccine. And the mandate, thank God the courts have ruled that out. But I think it's one of the major factors why you're going to see a lousy number on Friday on jobs. But I'm worried more generally about where the economy is headed. I think we've got just a hangover effect from, as Liz was saying, from all these trillions of dollars of spending, the massive increase in the debt, the fact that you can connect the dots between all of this money creation and the inflation. It has got to be brought to a stop. And I'm horrified by the idea they want to spend another $1 trillion on COVID relief. That would be another $1 trillion on top of $4 trillion already spent.
Well, you might. Why do you think? Why should they stop at $1 trillion? I mean, I think they can go much higher than $1 trillion. After all, the sky's the limit. You know, Liz, it's speaking of the weak economy. So the Atlanta Fed's GDP now showing zero in the first quarter. I think 0.1% growth, zero. And I note that after inflation and after taxes, you know, what we know is real disposable income, but take ordinary family income, take out your taxes and take out the inflation tax, you've had a decline in consumer spending power for the last 3 months, October, November, and December. I think there's more going on here than Omicron.
Well, I think that's true. I think Omicron really did sort of put the brakes on the recovery, and people stayed home. You can see it in surveys of restaurants and all the activity indices and so forth. That definitely had an impact on activity and consumption. But I think there are other things going on. People, look at the sentiment numbers, Larry. People are really worried about inflation. And even though wages are going up, hourly earnings are going up, they're not going up enough to offset the cost of living. And everyone is alarmed about that. And guess what? That puts the brake on things. I do think there's still $2 trillion or so of excess spending out there. I mean, excess savings that consumers can draw on. And I think that's a big factor in terms of why consumer spending will continue to be pretty good. But in the fourth quarter, it was all about inventory rebuilding. And I think that also is going to be something that spurs growth in the first quarter. I don't believe the 0% or 1%. I think it's going to be a decent quarter. And I think we're going to have a decent year. But the overhang in terms of inflation is really the number one thing. Yeah. And the labor shortage is a huge factor there.
And the money supply is still growing.
And don't forget, Larry, that you were the one who reported this about the... I was just going to say, you reported this, I think, last week, that almost half the states, including almost all the Republican governors, are using some of that surplus money to cut taxes, which is
that's
great.
A good thing.
We've got 4 or 5 states. You know, that's what should be done. We should be cutting taxes and cutting spending.
But in the last minute here, I want to go north to Canada, which is a wonderful place, a terrific place. And Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who seems to have, Steve, I'm going to get you both to weigh in this. He has a quarrel with truck drivers. He won't let them cross the country from the West Coast to Ottawa. He won't let them cross the border. They have to be vaccinated. And we're for the vaccinations, absolutely. I've been vaxxed and so forth. But the reality is a lot of people don't like them. A lot of people have natural immunity. Anyway, let me hear this truck convoy. We have a sound from Mr. Trudeau on who he likes, Black Lives Matter or the Freedom Convoy.
I have attended protests and rallies in the past when I agreed with the goals, when I supported the people expressing their concerns and their issues. Black Lives Matter is an excellent example of that. But I have also chosen to not go anywhere near protests that have expressed hateful rhetoric, violence towards fellow citizens.
Yeah, well, there you have it. So they're driving to Ottawa. They have $10 million in the kitty. No one knows where that's going to go. $10 million, which is vastly more than either political party has in Canada. And meanwhile, Mr. Trudeau is missing in action. Like he's not in Ottawa anymore, but we don't know where he is. And then, unfortunately, and I say this with seriousness, he's come down himself with COVID. So, Steve Moore, who's right, Trudeau or the truck drivers?
What's really amazing about this story, and it's huge. I mean, I heard the lines were as many as 12 miles long, and people were cheering on the roads. And now they've made it illegal, by the way, in some of the provinces for people to cheer on these truckers. But my point is, this is a blue-collar revolt against big government and intrusive government, and I love it. And the media in Canada and here in the United States is on the side of the government, not the freedom fighters.
Yeah, well, heck, what else is new? Did we get that full screen up there? Trudeau's running, you know, keeping in shape. That was very important. Let's speak. I'll give you the last word. What, you know, you got a bunch of truck drivers just trying to make a buck. I think Steve's right. This is like a blue-collar revolt. And I think it's spreading throughout Canada, but also it's spreading to what we sometimes call the lower 48.
I think that's right, Larry. I think we're going to see a similar kind of protest here, and I think the Biden White House is scared to death of that. They're supposed to be on the side of the little guy. It's the little guy that are driving these trucks and saying enough. We have had it with the mandates. We have had it with the restrictions. We want to get back to our real lives. get out of our way. And boy, I think this is a serious problem for the Biden White House.
Well, look, we can't locate Trudeau. He's completely missing in action. He's in a secured location someplace. But we know that when Joe Biden leaves the White House, he goes to Delaware. We can keep tabs on him. So that's a good thing. Liz Peek and Steve Moore, a dynamic duo. Thanks, kids. See you soon.